Okay, I think we can start now. I hope everybody is in the call who registered. I want to welcome everybody. My name is Johannes Heckmann, and I also welcome my colleague Günther Spitzer in today's earnings call. We'll report in the next 25-30 minutes about our Q3 24 highlights of the Nabaltec AG. I will guide you through the first 10 slides, 9 slides, and then Günther Spitzer will take over for the P&L and the balance sheet reporting. As I said, a short, brief overview of our company who is not so familiar with Nabaltec. We are a small, mid-sized company in the chemical industry, and we see ourselves as a leading supplier of environmental friendly flame retardants, as well as specialty aluminas based on aluminum hydroxide and oxides. The company is headquartered in Schwandorf in Bavaria, and we have 2 more sites, production sites in the USA. In the 23 financial year, the group generated revenue of 200 million euros and an operating result of 18.3 million. With an around, we have about 516 here exactly last year. We are active worldwide, as you see on the export ratio, with 75%. And our sales department is supported by distribution partners all over the world. The site is fairly long in operation since 37, and we have an annual capacity worldwide of 260,000 tons per year. As you can see the next slide, here as we report, typically in our 2 product segments, the functional fillers and the specialty aluminas, where the functional fillers take the lead in terms of revenue, corresponding with a product range of ground hydroxides, visco-optimized, and fine precipitated hydrous. The growth drivers here certainly are the flame retardant fillers, and on the second lead is the boehmites with visco-optimized. The last 2 ones especially go into the applications, which I tell later a little bit, of the electromobility. Our second market segment or product segment are the specialty aluminas, which count for approximately 58 million last year. And the typical product range goes from normal standard oxides to reactive and ceramic bodies, and go into the applications of wear resistance in the technical ceramics and especially in the refractory market. And at the least, you can see again the wrap up of the capacities where I already summarized with 265 million. Of course, the biggest chunk goes into Europe or in the Schwandorf facility with our hydroxides and in Europe. Our raw material supply is, sorry about that. Our raw material supply goes typically through aluminum hydroxide process stream and the aluminum oxides, which we feedstock worldwide in Europe, especially from European refineries. Coming to the markets, here you can see the market segments, how it's split up in the diverse applications. It's a very broad field of applications with a focus on wire and cables. And wire and cables summarize mainly data cables and energy cables. Also energy cables in terms of wind turbines and PVC. And also, of course, some of automotive. Our new opportunistic market are the battery sector, where I just named it, where we are with 2 products in this field active, namely the separator and especially in the battery assembling. I will tell you later a little bit. The other segment, especially aluminas, looks a little bit different. Here we have our focus in the refractory industry, as you can see, with also a large number of applications. But here, the difference to the functional fillers, we concentrate more in Europe, where the functional fillers is more an international business all over the world. This is also a little bit related to logistics and price elasticity. Now coming to the 23 highlights, the Q3 24 highlights. As you can see, in the third quarter, our revenue amounted at almost 50 million. Compared to the last year's figure, this is a sideways movement. Despite an increase of volume of around 8% compared to the same quarter of the previous year, revenue did not increase as we had some lower prices at approximately 7% over the product mix. So operating result improved astonishingly by 30%, 30.4% to 6 million compared to the prior year. The EBIT margin as a percentage of total performance increased to 11.4% in the third quarter. What was the reason? Especially production capacity utilization, good demand for visco-optimized hydroxides, and lower costs for materials, energy, and maintenance compared to the same quarter of the previous year, were the drivers of these earnings for the performance. The earning per share, as you can see, amounted at 0.42 euros per share. The net debt, standing at end of September 24, was at minus 2.4. How does it consist of? We had liabilities to banks at 91.3 million, and they were offset by cash and cash equivalents of 93.7 million as of the reporting date. That means that the group is net cash free, net debt free with a net debt of, as I said, minus 2.4. This also includes, it does not include a fixed term deposit of 15 million, but my colleague will later relate to that again more in detail. At the next chart, you can see now the individual segments here. First, the revenue. The revenue in the first quarter for the functional fillers was only slightly increased by 0.8, almost a percent compared to the previous year's quarter. As I said, sales volume were 8.5% higher, while prices in the product mix fell by 7.2% in this segment. In addition to the continued good demand for fine hydrates in Europe and USA, especially here at the priority wire and cable market, a strong quarter for visco-optimized hydroxides for battery applications was in the focus. However, the boehmite recorded a significant drop in revenue by 46% in the third quarter compared to the previous quarter because of a lack of consumption and high competition in China. Despite the flat revenue development, the operating result, as you can see in this segment, improved from 4.3 to 5.8 million in the third quarter. EBIT margin increased 16.2%, up from 12 in the same period of last year, from 12.4 in the first 6 months 2024. So the strong revenues in the fine hydrates and, as I already mentioned, visco-optimized product ranges are the main drivers for this excellent margin development. An improved cost position for raw materials, energy, and maintenance backed this earnings situation. This more than compensated the price reductions, as I said, of 7.2% in the market. Due to the weak demand of boehmite sales, which were below 1,000 tons in the third quarter. The results of the US subsidiaries are improving compared to last year, but Nabaltec still posting a negative result. In the third quarter, so Nashtec revenues accounted for 16% of the segment revenues and Nabaltec for 3%. The capital expenditure for this functional fillers increased 2.5 million to 4.8 million in this quarter. This brings the capital expenditures overall in the segment to 17.2 in the first 9 months, of which 9.5 are dedicated or attributable to the boehmite capacity expansion, which we published several times, and for 8.9 million for the visco optimized hydroxide expansion projects, which are still on the way. In total, including these associated infrastructure measurements, the capital expenditure for these two projects will amount of 50 million, ending about 2025, end of 2025, we finish this expenditure cycle. Let's go to the next slide, which is then the specialty aluminas. What happened there? As you can see here, it's looking not so promising compared to the functional fillers. It's a pretty tough segment momentarily, and we had a minus 1.4 a decrease in the revenues compared to last year. What was the reason? The reason is currently the lack of the impetus primarily from the reactive aluminas, which is a major product in the refractory industry, and for us a high value added product. This also reflects then the depression on the margin side, and the sales volume compared to last year still increased by 5.6%. The EBIT margin, as I said, was in this product segment extremely weak, of 1.4%. We currently see no change here, I must say, in the assessment of the situation. What is the reason? Mostly overcapacity and weak demand in the overall business is impacting both sales and also sales prices. In Europe, momentarily, the steel industry has an absolutely low demand due to the overall economic situation in Europe, and we are fully dedicated here to the European business. If you go to the capital expenditures, we had spent 2.4 million momentarily in the up to third quarter, and this amounts to 4.2 over the whole year from Q1 to Q3. Half of the amount relates majorly to initial expenditures for our big maintenance program or overhauling of our rotary kilns, which is in the process and will be finished by end of 2025. Now I go to the next slide, and I would hand over to Günther Spitzer for the P&L and the next coming slides, the balance sheet and the cash flow. Günther, please.
Yes, thank you, Johannes. Let's continue with the profit and loss statement of the group for the first 9 months of 2024 compared to the same period of the previous year. Our revenues in the first 9 months increased slightly by 1.5% to 158.2 million euros compared to the previous year. In relation to our sales forecast for the whole year 2024, with growth in the range of 2 to 4%, we are slightly below this in the 9 months period. Sales volumes increased by 7.9% and sales prices in the product mix decreased by 5.9%. Functional fillers accounted for 72.1% of total revenues in the first 9 months, up from 70.5% in the same period of last year. We expect this trend to continue in the future. Total performance increased by 4.8% to 162.6 million due to higher inventories of finished goods in the amount of 3.5 million, especially for the product range oxides in preparation for the general overhaul of a rotary kiln in the fourth quarter of 2024. Gross profit improved by 4.8% to 82.2 million, a plus of 3.8 million euros. Despite sales price decreases and lower boehmite revenues, we achieved a gross profit margin of 50.6%, slightly above previous year. Improved sales volumes for fine hydroxides and visco-optimized hydroxides, combined with lower input costs for raw materials, auxiliary materials, and energy, were the basis for the solid gross profit margin. EBITDA improved by 3.1 million year-on-year to 25.8 million euros, which corresponds to a good EBITDA margin of 15.9%. The expense ratio for other operating expenses fell from 16.9% to 15.8% due to lower maintenance costs, and the depreciation ratio fell from 6.2 to 5.5% of total performance. Accordingly, the EBIT margin improved in the first 9 months from 8.4% in 2023 to 10.3% in 2024. In terms of the segments, functional fillers recorded an EBIT margin of 13.5% and specialty aluminas of 3.2%. Earnings per share rose from 96 euro cents in the first 9 months of last year to 1.27 euro in the first 9 months of the current year. Now I come to the balance sheet. Total assets increased by 16.2 million euros to 297.1 million compared to the end of 2023. This was primarily due to an increase in property, plant and equipment of 11.7 million to 130.7 million euros, including assets under construction of 31.7 million, which reflect our ongoing investment program. Other non-current assets amounting to 15.9 million include a fixed-term deposit of 15 million euros with a term of 2 years. At the end of last year, there was a fixed-term deposit in the same amount, but with a remaining term of 4 months, and therefore reported under receivables and other assets. Inventories decreased by 4.8 million to 46.3 million. This is a result of the significant reduction in raw material inventories by 8.6 million euros. Compared to 2023, cash increased from 86 to 93.7 million euros. On the liability side, equity increased by 8.4 million to 150.2 million. The equity ratio improved to 50.6% and reflects a solid balance sheet structure. Non-current liabilities of 122.7 million include pension provisions of 28.7 and bank liabilities of 90 million. The average interest rate for liabilities to banks is slightly above 3% in 2024. Current liabilities increased by 7.7 million euros and include higher trade payables of 4.4 million and higher accruals of personnel costs of 2.1 million euros compared to the end of last year. So a short look to the cash flow statement of the Nabaltec Group. Cash flow from operating activity of 32.2 million increased by 17 9.4 million compared to the previous year. In addition to the improved net operating income, this was mainly due to working capital effects, such as the reduction in inventories by 4.8 million and the increase in trade payables and other payables by 7.4 million. After deducting payments for investments of 21.4 million, free cash flow amounted to 10.8 million and therefore 63.6% higher than the free cash flow of the previous year, despite increased investment activity of 13.2 million euros. The cash flow from financing activity includes a dividend payment of 2.5 million euros. Cash amounted to 93.7 million euros at the end of September 24. So far, and for the next slides, the outlook for 2024, I will hand back over to Johannes Heckmann.
Yes, thank you, Günther. Now let's have a short outlook on what's going on until the next few months and to the end of the year. I can herewith confirm our revised outlook at a revenue growth of a range of 2.4%. On the earnings side, we expect an EBIT margin of 8 to 10%, and demand continues to be, as we can see, still at the end of this month for short-termism and higher volatility. But our main product range of especially fine hydrates remains largely stable. Where we see a momentum loss is more on the alumina side, and there is no change in the dynamics of the boehmite. So this overall gives this picture momentarily, and yeah, we are now at the end of the presentation, and I would kindly ask the audience here to raise their hands for any questions which we are available. Just to hint out, please, as you are familiar with Zoom, you can raise your hands on the side here, and then we will answer your questions.
Yes, we see a first hand from Christian
Sand here. Yes, please, Christian.
Hi, thanks for taking the question. First question would be on boehmite. You just mentioned the particularly weakness in Q3. I think you mentioned only 1,000 tons that you sold. So my question would be, do you see or have you received any indications from your current customers and potential new customers that this could change over the, let's say, I don't know, one year period?
It's momentarily, I would say, most of our customers are very reluctant in give a clear visibility, frankly speaking. We see some momentum in interest in our products because we have a high quality, but to give a strict forecast is momentarily not existing, frankly speaking. The last few years they were quite more optimistic, and as you are well aware, there is a lot of insecurity where people have a lack of capacity also, as well as in Europe. I mean, there is 3 sites, 2 in Poland, 1 in Hungary. The one in Hungary is still in the ramp-up phase. They still say to us they want to SEMCORP, they want to produce. We'll have to see. I am still not too pessimistic. I think it will gain momentum as soon as also the political insecurity here has settled. What happens in US, I frankly cannot say momentarily. As Trump said, he wants to go back to the base, but we'll see what much influence Mr. Musk has here on this position. But as I said, that's speculation, but that's momentarily the situation.
Have you sold any boehmite volumes to the US already or not?
only minor volume, more as a test trial. There is one big client, it's Entech, who is a local producer. Of course, the people who are still having projects running, for example, in Canada, they ask that we can, and hopefully we will supply them, but there is no correct order now in the moment.
Okay,
No
and then maybe
concrete order.
Thank you. Maybe same question, but on a different part of the business, on specialty alumina. I mean, it's been weak now for quite some time. Do you see any light at the end of the tunnel, or is it at least stabilizing on these levels?
I would see in so far a light at the end of the tunnel that it's stabilizing. It's not like decreasing more, but there is no impetus, as I said, a big move. We have to see next year. Some people were in the second half or around the second half a bit more optimistic, but momentarily it moves again sideways. It a lot depends on the refractory industry. There, as I said, that's a situation. It's not satisfactory, but I wouldn't say there is a further decrease. That's more a sideways movement. The technical ceramics, where we have to always differentiate, the refractory is more like steel link, more cyclical. The technical ceramics here, it's more industrial goods. If there is new investments going on, works fairly well. But also there, this is not like a big growth factor. So the technical ceramics are specialty applications in wear resistant and so on, in electrical components, in substrates for chips and so on. It's also not the highest volume driven. Sorry, are you?
Okay. No,
You're
understood.
on, yeah.
And then, okay, and then my third question would be on the EBIT margin. So take into consideration that you basically had no real sales growth, and specialty alumina was really weak, especially on the margin side, and boehmite was really weak. The EBIT margin on group level was, I would say, actually quite strong at almost 12%. So would you say this level is largely sustainable, assuming no changes in further deterioration in these especially alumina and boehmite business?
So if there is no deterioration, it's certainly a challenge. I would not say. I mean, we see still some growth momentum, as you could see on the fine hydrates on the cable and wire. There is a lot of opportunity in the market, especially with AI and all the ramping up of networking like Microsoft, Amazon. So this is kind of an ongoing process here. Visco optimized, we haven't talked about it all. We see a strong growth. Now, a lot of people say, when boehmite is down, why is this part going up? As I said, as it's mentioned, here we are talking about assembling batteries, so the adhesives, the glue practically going into the battery where the cells are put into the case. This consists of our materials for a certain heat release. And this always used on site where the battery is assembled. So all the batteries which are assembled in Europe have this use of the adhesives. And the good thing is we are the first mover here, and therefore there is, independent of the decreasing or slowdown of the market, a ramp up which causes the volumes to increase. And we see that this is ongoing for next year, as well as the fine hydrates for the cable and wire industry. So there is an impetus on that side. Coming back to your questions, if everything runs flat, I would see us that we are able to provide a fairly sustainable EBIT margin as well. Of course, there are a few risk factors. That's the question of energy, which we have some volatility in terms of gas prices and electricity prices. We don't know yet what's happening next year. But the rest, I mean, we have a straight forecast. or a good feeling about our cost structure.
Okay, great. Thanks. That will be it for now.
Mr. Konstantin Wichert, please. I haven't seen anybody else raising hands. Hello.
Can you hear me? I'm unfortunately still on the train, so I hope that the connection will last with me for now. Thank you so much for the presentation and congratulations on the good quarter. A couple of questions. First of all, coming back on the viscosity optimized hydroxides, is there in any way sort of a one-off contract delivery that you had in this quarter as well, that similar to what we've seen in boehmite in the second quarter? Just a clarification on that. And also when we look at the margin, I'm wondering a bit how I should think about the margin of functional fillers. Is that to a certain degree also that when you say your viscosity optimized hydroxides are performing better now, that we should assume those are currently coming at margins above the segment overall level? And is that something what you think will also continue over the next years? And maybe also to add on this, I've seen that your finished goods inventory has actually gone up by about 2.4 million quarter over quarter. So I guess you stepped up a bit the inventory also, I think, in relation to maintenance shutdowns and your construction work on the warehouse that you said you're going to have in the fourth quarter. So is it something where we should also think that the strong third quarter here might end up with a weaker fourth quarter, so that the second half overall might be a bit more balanced compared to what we've seen in the first half already?
To connect to your last question or your last sentence here, the second half of the year is structural always weaker than the first half due to the fact that we have seasonal impacts like holidays in the summer and especially December. So December is typically, first of all, a short month, and secondly, a weaker month over the years. You can look back and you see that, and this has, of course, an impact on Q4, also in the revenue. That's definite. The second thing, what you ask, if there is an impact or a one-off in visco optimized, what was in the boehmite, a lot of the audience might have not or have to recall what that means. We had a big one-off in boehmite in the second quarter with a big customer who all of a sudden ordered 600 tons something. No, that's not. That's more a consistent business with the hydroxides. In terms of profitability, yes, visco optimized hydroxides are above this average EBIT margin, what we show momentarily. If this is in the long run possible, we have much higher margin than that, but we see a quite good position that we can get the overall two-digit EBIT margin also in the long run. Of course, we are the first mover momentarily, and it's not said that anybody else can intrude that market. This is quite obvious to us, but we have to wait and see. We are very cautious. We try to get our customers quite well bound to us, and the first mover has always an advantage because we have the quality lead here and we set the standard. And then we have to see right now what we do. We try to multiply the customer base momentarily because it's a brand new product. We have a few lead customers, and it has to be multiplied all over the globe. The good thing is that we have quite big companies in our basket and also develop it with the and these are namely one can mention a few of them like Henkel, DuPont, Dow, Wacker. They are all interested in these products, and with some we have active business relationship. So though the good thing is when they multiply their production sites, we go with them over the globe with our products. And that's, as I said, this is a ramp-up phase, and this market is in difference to boehmite closer to the end consumer as it is used in an adhesive. So, for example, Henkel sells to one of the big OEMs and directly, and so we are much closer. We have less competition and are closer to OEMs. This gives you a certain advantage in terms also of pricing power, I would say, compared to the boehmite, where we are one further down. We are directly selling into the separators. The separator goes to the battery manufacturer, and then the battery goes to the OEM. That's, I think, the key difference. We were always very optimistic about this Visco optimized and the performance in terms of price and cost effectiveness in this whole system. So we will see, and that's why we also spent over 27 million, almost 30 million for this total plant here in Schwandorf for the 25,000 tons, 30,000 tons actually. Did I forget something here, Richard? I think
no, I think it's fine. Just if I make clarification again on the fourth quarter. If we come back to the higher inventory of finished goods that we see now in the third quarter, and what does that mean for utilization rates in the fourth quarter? Would they still be ahead of last year, or would they potentially be even below last year's fourth quarter?
The inventory, first of all, you well recognized something has to be relates to our main overhauling of our kilns. We already start to stockpile some finished goods for our alumina or aluminum oxides because one of the major kilns goes out of operation for quite a time, and so we have to fill this gap. That's certainly a reason. Of course, the utilization with this overhauling goes then down naturally because we have one aggregate out of two majors out of operation. And the rest is just filling up the gaps. What you relate to on with the warehousing was more on the raw material side where we have to do some, we install some equipment where we had to decrease our raw materials in Schwandorf, but we're also ramping that up now a little bit more. So these two are combined the reason for this inventory change or increase in terms, as I said, utilization. We see a continued utilization ramp or even a higher on the fine hydrates and the hydroxide part. And on the alumina, it will be lower due to the fact that we have some aggregates out of operation. But momentarily, we are around 75-80%, so we have room to move. Where we are quite well is US. Nabaltec runs at almost 80-90%. So we are quite well engaged there.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Let me scroll through the audience. I cannot see momentarily any further questions. Though there is Mr. Chirwitz has a question. Klaus Chirwitz. I don't know. Can you just shortly introduce you?
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yes, no. I hear you.
Okay. First, I'm an investor in your stocks, and congratulations to your good results.
Thank you.
I have a question about your dividend policy. You paid last year about 28 cents dividend, which is a little bit lower than 2%. Have you not many companies? They pay 30 to 40% from their net income. Have you an idea if you are always frozen at a low level, or will you sometimes? Can you give a percentage how much you will pay for the years? A guideline.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Chirwitz. In terms of dividends, I mean, first of all, we try to be continuous on that side. Secondly, up to now, it's correct. We are not one of the companies who cash out a lot of money to the shareholders, and we try to work with the retained earnings on our investments. And give you an outlook, I would say as long as we have a strong investment phase as it is in the moment, and I told you that only these two projects we have running momentarily will consume 50 million in the next 2 years, and we always communicated that we have 24, 25, 26, an overall of roughly 70 million. We certainly have a focus on the retained earnings investing in our expansion projects. And if this changes and we go back, certainly, and if the money, the cash flow is still very high, we will change that. But in the moment, please, I hope you understand that this is more important to expand the plant and to give the overall group a better foundation in terms of a viable business than to share profits with a shareholder. I know we are not a Siemens, we are not a telecom. We are still an expanding, growing company, but as I said, it might change in the future when this phase goes over. But a clear range I cannot give you momentarily. But we have a continuous policy in dividends.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, if you must invest this money, that's okay. This question was only if you have no idea to invest it. Okay, that's okay.
No.
Thank you very much.
Then the story would be different. You're welcome. Okay. Harry Gilby is the next speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's a bit of a more general question. So you mentioned the increased competition from China in your boehmite section. I guess, do you kind of expect this competition to continue increasing? And then what are your sort of thoughts and strategy around how you're going to tackle this increased competition from China?
Momentarily, it's hard to foresee. What we know about the market is that it's a highly competitive market within China. I would not be surprised if there is also a consolidation in China in that market field. We of course try to move on in China with certain existing clients. Where we focus, of course, is outside of China in the periphery, which is, Japan is a big market. South Korea is a big market. That's where we start, where we always focused, and we practically moved into China with our South Korean clients or customers when they built up production sites. That's the one thing. Of course, we concentrate on Europe and US. Now, everybody could say, US is momentarily at a standstill, and they wind back the whole thing with Trump. And in Europe, there is no move. We saw and see still a move in Japan. And with the existing clients, when the business also comes back in China, I think we still have a good standing. We have a good quality in China. A lot of people, also Chinese clients, separator manufacturers, are asking for our quality. So I'm still of a very good belief that this moves on. Of course, we don't have this momentum in quantity, but there is a good connection, and Mr. Wichert mentioned that there are some OEMs who ask for certain qualities in their cells, and this has an impact on our relationship. So it's not totally now eliminated, this business. It just we will gain again if the momentum in China, in Asia grows for electric mobility, first of all, and through quality increase.
Amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else in the audience? I cannot see momentarily anybody more. If this is not the case, I would say we had 45 minutes. Any last questions? or last question. If this is not the case, then I would say thank you for your patience, for the audience, for listening to these Q3 figures, and also in the name of Günther Spitzer, my CFO. And we hope for a good final at the end of the year. And then we will publish the next figures for the final year, at least for the preliminaries in February, in the third week of February, as I recall. And then we will also have an earnings call when we publish the annual figures in April. Thank you very, very well again for your all attention, and I still wish you a good week, end of the week, and a good weekend. Bye.